Hey everybody, this is Joe Price. So in this video, I'm going to be showcasing my post-Plantera dungeon auto farm. Really like how the farm turned out, and let's go do some farming. So I'm just going to enter C2 in the teleporter hub, and let's go take a look. Alright, so here we are. So before we actually begin the farming, just a quick explanation as to what it is that you see on screen. There are three separate places where mobs can spawn, and we have different dungeon background walls that will dictate some of the specific mobs that can spawn there. We also will be using teleporters to teleport the mobs into a kill chamber, but we're not going to wait until the mobs actually activate the teleporters themselves. We will be using dummy ghosts to do all of the teleportations. We need to do this because there are some mobs here that cannot activate pressure plates. Specifically the Ragged Casters, the Necromancers, and the Diabolists. They can be really annoying, and we need to force teleport them into the kill chambers. So I'm going to be using 3 dummy ghosts here. I just pull this lever in the top left, and they'll be going across these hoik tracks, activating pressure plates along the way, activating the teleporters, and all of these teleporters are connected to the kill chamber. Let me just activate free cam mode here, move this camera a little bit, and we see the kill chamber right up top here. And there's a teleporter. The segments of the teleporter have been hammered into hoik teeth, and anything that gets teleported here will get ejected to the left. There's some lava to inflict damage, and we're going to be there in just a moment. And we'll be mounting a slime saddle. The slime saddle will be inflicting damage. We can also summon some minions to do damage to the mobs. Yeah, so this is a very effective setup because it creates very high turnover for mobs, and the spawn rate is at its maximum here in the dungeon. So this is pretty effective for farming. Alright, so let's take a look at this farm in action. So we just need to mount the slime and pull the lever in the top right. We just get rid of free cam mode for a second, and yeah, pull that lever, and then we end up on top of a couple of dummy ghosts. Now, for those of you that have seen my previous videos where I use this kind of setup, you might already know what's happening here, but if this is the first time you're seeing this, just a quick explanation here. The slime saddle, when it hits something, invincibility frames are generated, and if you are able to hit something often enough, then you basically have continuous invincibility frames. Now, it turns out that bouncing on top of 2 dummies is sufficient to generate continuous invincibility frames. Yeah, so we're basically safe from any harm so long as we bounce on top of these dummy ghosts. Now, of course, the mobs that are teleporting in here and they get ejected into the kill region just directly below me, they're actually getting hit by the slime saddle. And the slime saddle does summon damage, so if you boost the summon damage through gear, you can actually inflict most of the damage with the slime saddle. Just to show you my equips here, I'm just using the spooky set, and I'm using some accessories that boost minion damage. That's why I'm doing so much damage here. It's a good idea also to summon some minions just to speed up the process even more, and to get rid of some of the dungeon spirits that sometimes accumulate where I am, just out of reach of the slime saddle. Now, most minions do piercing damage. The slime saddle does piercing damage. So piercing damage interferes with other sources of piercing damage. So we cannot use any minions that pierce. There are only 2 minions that don't pierce, ravens and pygmies. So we can safely summon some ravens here. I'm doing so now. And not worry about those ravens hitting the dummies and preventing the slime from hitting them. If we stop the slime saddle from hitting the dummies, we lose the invincibility frames. Alright, so that's basically the setup here, and yeah, like I said, it creates very high turnover. We have a very high kill rate here because of this convenient setup. Now, it's very important in dungeon farms to create these kinds of invincibility setups. And the reason for that is the ragged casters and the diabolists, they can shoot through walls and they can kill you very quickly. So we need to protect against that. And these giant skulls can also shoot through walls as well. So we need to guard against that as well. And of course the dungeon spirits, when they spawn, they can pass through walls. So we need some minions or the slime saddle to be able to deal with them effectively. So we're just going to engage free cam mode here again and just switch the camera over so that we can see the mobs actually spawning on the surfaces. And as you can see, they get teleported extremely quickly away from the spawn surfaces and to our kill chamber. Now, it's possible that there's some back teleportation, because as one mob gets teleported to the teleport in the kill chamber, another mob might be teleported there as well, causing the back teleportation. Back teleportation is not an issue, because any mob that gets teleported back to the spawn surface, well, they'll just get teleported right back to the kill chamber. So, not a problem at all. Now, I have 3 different types of dungeon walls here, so that I can generate all possible spawns in the dungeon. And just to bring up the information here, what sort of walls generate what sort of mobs. So we have slab walls, that's on the far left here, and we can generate rusty armored bones, ragged casters, skeleton snipers from that background wall. Then we have tiled walls, so that's the one in the middle. And tiled walls generate hell armored bones, diabolists, and tactical skeletons. And finally the brick walls, these are the really common walls. That's what you see directly below me. Brick walls generate necromancers, blue armored bones, skeleton commandos, and paladins. Now the neat thing about this setup is that I can actually shut off spawns from any one of these 3 pods if I'm not interested in farming the unique mobs from those spawn surfaces. So I have 3 levers here to my left, and I've got some lights here indicating whether or not that spawn surface is currently on or off. So let's take a look at what happens if I pull one of these levers. Let's say I pull the middle one because I want to shut off the tiled wall spawns. So when I pull that lever, the lights go off, and notice that I have some dungeon breaks that just got deactuated into the foreground. This prevents any spawns from occurring directly below. All mobs, no matter what their size or shape happens to be, they need always a spawn surface that's 3 tiles high, and this is only 2 tiles high, so spawns are blocked. Now notice there are mobs that are appearing here, but that's due to back teleportation, and they get quickly teleported back into the kill chamber anyways. There's a layer of lava directly above. This is just to make sure that when I deactuate these bricks, that nothing is going to spawn on top of these bricks. This layer of lava does not interfere with the spawns on the regular spawn surface, so this is a really convenient mechanism to prevent spawns from occurring. And yeah, I can shut off 2 of the 3 surfaces like that, and that way I can maximize the spawns from the desired surface. Alright, so let me just enable all the surfaces again, and let this run for a little bit more. So I have all the banners up. When it comes to summon damage, the slime saddle and the minions, their damage is going to be boosted if banners are actually present. And if you want to use this farm to generate the various dungeon keys, you can put down some jungle bricks. The temple bricks serve as jungle biome bricks. We can also put down some ice bricks, or ice blocks I should say. We can put down corruption and crimson blocks. I actually have those here. They're not lit up, but they are around, so that way I can collect the various dungeon keys. One other thing to mention here, this farm is really good for drops. As you can see, we've been farming just for a brief amount of time, and I already have quite a number of drops here. You can sell these for quite a large amount, so this can double as a really effective money farm. But its main use is for the various neat drops. Now, this particular farm is really not that easy to build, for one simple reason, and that is you need to find in the dungeon a place where you have the 3 background walls in close proximity. The main thing is to make sure that each one of these spawn surfaces is either 62 tiles to the left or to the right of your position, or at least 36 tiles below your position. So you have a decent chance of finding a place in the dungeon that has all 3 of these background walls. But the good news is that for the specific spawns that are tied up with the background walls to occur, the only thing that matters is what the background wall is behind the actual spawn surfaces themselves. It is completely irrelevant what the background walls are directly above that spawn surface. So over to the right, just below me here, we see that it's all just the regular dungeon brick. That does not matter at all. Just the surface at the bottom. What's behind that surface, that's the only thing that controls the dungeon spawns. One other feature that I wanted to quickly point out, and if I just move the camera to my right here, I have this tiny little corridor, and that's for these blazing wheels. Blazing wheels can get teleported, and if they teleport inside, well, the blazing wheel can just move down this small corridor, and it'll exit to an open surface. When mobs go off screen, they eventually despawn, and that's important because we don't want to have mobs accumulating anywhere if they're not going to be killed. Alright, so there you have it. Really effective way of farming all of the dungeon mobs, and really good way of generating a lot of money. So now, I'm just going to disable free chem mode here. If we want to quit the farming, well, we just pull the lever here that will teleport us back to the waiting chamber. Then we can just dismount from the slime saddle and then teleport back to home base. We'll wait though until these giant curse skulls are killed off. As you can see, they now fire shots that can pass through walls. So it just goes back to what I said earlier. We need to make sure that we're generating invulnerability here. Alright, so they have been killed off. So there we are. We hop off the slime saddle, and we can just pull the bottom right lever to send us back to home base. Alright, so there you have it. I will make this available for download, this particular world, if you want to try out the farm for yourself. All you will need is the slime saddle, very easy to obtain. This is just something you can obtain from farming king slime from pre-hard mode. And you will need the raven staff if you want to speed up the farming and make it easier to kill the dungeon spirits. You don't really need the summoner gear, but the more of it you equip, the easier it's going to be. Yeah, so there you have it. Quite a number of drops. I even left some behind in the farm itself. Alright, so up next I will actually show you what the components are of this farm, and just have some quick notes for you as far as how it can be built. Alright, so let's take a look at the spawn surface first, and how we can use the dummy ghost to generate quick teleportation of the mobs to the kill chamber. So the spawn surface is this surface right here, and directly above it we have deactivated blocks that are currently blocking any spawns here. But if we pull the lever here, we can actuate all of those blocks, and now spawns can take place. Again, it doesn't matter that there's a layer of lava up here. All spawns initiate in midair, and they manifest on the first available surface directly below. So if the spawn initiates at this position right up here, well, it'll just drop down, and the spawn will take place at this position. Yeah, so very convenient way of blocking spawns just by deactivating those particular blocks. And by the way, it's 2 rows of blocks that I have here. If I only had 1 row of blocks, it wouldn't be as effective, because if we have back teleportation, the mobs can actually hop on top of a single row of blocks. But if you have 2 rows of blocks like that, well, they won't be able to hop on top. And just to show you the wiring here, pretty simple. I just put actuators on these 2 rows of blocks, pass wire through them, and just connected it to the lever. Now this lever would of course be in our kill chamber where we are going to be positioned while farming, so that way we can control whether or not anything would spawn here. Alright, so the next thing is this particular hoik track. So there's a whole bunch of teleporters here, and they're all hooked up through the exact same wire, and they're hooked up to the pressure plates directly below. Now, you can hook up multiple teleporters with a single wire, and the way that it always works is if there's an NPC or player character that sits on top of a particular teleporter, and a pressure plate or lever is activated that's connected to that teleporter, it'll always send the player or NPC to the furthest teleporter. So right here, if a mob got teleported from this teleporter, well, it would end up going to the furthest teleporter, which is actually right here, and this is our kill chamber. So that's why we're going to have this dummy ghost pass through the hoik tracks, activating all these pressure plates, and very quickly teleporting anything that ends up spawning on top of these teleporters to the kill chamber. And anything that teleports back, well, will be very quickly teleported right back to the kill chamber again. So the actual way that I've set this up, I'll just bring up the wiring here again. I'll just be pulling this lever connected through green wire. So this connects these 2 teleporters, and it'll teleport the dummy ghost to this teleporter right into the hoik teeth, and it'll send the dummy ghost down this track. Now when it reaches the end of the track, the red wire here connects the teleporter at the end to the teleporter at the beginning, so that way the dummy ghost will just pass down the track, get teleported at the beginning, pass down the track over and over. The other pressure plates are connected through the blue wire to the teleporters themselves. Now I also have the green wire extending up top here, and there's a couple of actuators on top of these blocks. So this way, when I pull the lever once, yeah, it'll send the dummy going down this track, but when I pull it again, I will actuate those 2 blocks at this position, and it'll just cause the dummy to just fall back down here. Yeah, so that way we can stop the teleportation. Yeah, so pretty simple setup. And the spawn surface, it really doesn't need to be that wide. This is only 22 tiles wide. And if this spawn region is located to the left or to the right of the player, we just have to make sure that this spawn surface is between 62 and 84 tiles from the player's position. So it's very important to remember those numbers and that particular range. Now, if we are positioned above this spawn surface, then we just have to make sure that this spawn surface is 36 or more tiles below the player's feet. So we have some flexibility as far as where we can position this. Also, as I said earlier, because spawns occur in midair, the bigger the region above the spawn surface, the better for the spawn rate. There's a point at which the region is large enough that you've essentially reached the maximum spawn rate, but try to make it as big as possible. So the actual kill chamber, let's take a quick look at that, and let's quickly talk about that. So just to bring up the wiring here, fairly simple wiring, just the wire from the spawn region connected to this teleporter. These teleporters have been hammered, the segments have been hammered into hoik teeth, and you have other hoik teeth. This is important to reduce the amount of back teleportation you have. This way, when mobs get teleported here, they'll get very quickly moved off the teleporter to limit the back teleportation. Now, we have lava that will inflict some of the damage. The lava does not compete with other damage sources, so really convenient. And the 2 dummies that I've placed here are necessary for the slime saddle invulnerability. And to be able to teleport into this chamber while on your slime saddle, here's the setup. So we need a ceiling that is 3 tiles above the top of the dummy goes, and this teleporter needs to be actuated into the background. So the way you can do that is place the teleporter here, put down the actuators on top of the teleporter, actuate it into the background, and then just remove the actuators. So where we teleport from, well, we also need a teleporter that's actuated into the background, and that teleporter needs to be 2 tiles off the ground. Yeah, so that way when we hop onto the saddle, when we pull this lever, there's enough of us that enough of the player character that's sticking up above the teleporter surface that will end up getting teleported. Yeah, so just like that. And then of course another lever will just send us right back. So fairly simple setup, and like I said, this particular kill chamber you can put 62 tiles away from the spawn surface to the left or to the right of the spawn surface, or at least 36 tiles above the spawn surface. Yeah, so there it is. This you can use for the farming of any mobs anywhere. In my previous videos, I already showed how you can do farming in the jungle temple, how you can do regular mob farming in the cavern layer. So very convenient setup and extremely easy to build. There's nothing to it really. You don't need to farm any temple traps or anything like that. All of these materials you can either purchase or you can craft with very easy to farm materials. Just one last thing to mention here. When it comes to the dungeon farming, you don't actually need to block all other regions with tiles. Like for instance, if this was my actual setup, let's say in the cavern layer, I would just need to put down a layer of lava below just to make sure that I'm blocking all possible spawns outside of this spawn region. So if you want to build this in a dungeon, well, just put down lava everywhere where you don't want mobs to spawn. Lava always blocks spawns of all of the mobs. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video. Feel free to download the world, like I said, if you wanted to try the dungeon farm for yourself and many other farms that are on that world. And I will also provide a link to schematics, so that way you can use the schematics to build something like this of your own in your own world. Alright guys, so that's it for today, and we'll see you in the next video.